Assalamu alaikum. So this is going to be another physiology lesson, and I've extrapolated this data from non-human primates. And I know this is not the best example to use, but essentially they have the same hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenal, or gonadal axis as humans. They have the same system in place, and I have reason to believe that we can extrapolate data from here. So I want to first of all explain some of this physiology, and then inshallah we'll see how this relates back to the topic at hand, which is, should women be in the workplace? Now, the study that I'm going to read from is titled Relationship Between Social Rank and Cortisol and Testosterone Concentrations in Male Cynomolgus Monkeys. Okay, so essentially I'm going to break down some of this study and show you how this is pertinent to the topic at hand. We have within our brain, in a part of the brain called the hypothalamus, that signals to another gland in our brain called the pituitary to release certain hormones. So we'll start off just by mentioning this pituitary, because that sort of signals downstream to either our adrenals, which are these little glands that we have on top of our kidneys, or our gonads, which are the ovaries in women and the testes in men. Okay, we have one hormone called GnRH, or gonadotropin releasing hormone, and we have also ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay, the first one acts on the gonads, the second one acts on the adrenals to release certain things. Okay, generally, the one that acts on the adrenals causes the production of a glucocorticoid called cortisol. Cortisol, the stress hormone, you've probably heard of that. When it acts on the adrenals, that's what it releases. But when you have GnRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone, acting on the gonads, then that causes generally the release, especially in men, the release of testosterone, or in women, the release, it's going to cause the pituitary to release LH, and FSH cause the release of estrogens. Now, how does this relate to work? Like I said, the secretion of these hormones starts in our brain. It starts all up here. And our perception and our connectedness with reality, and especially, according to this study, and I believe, like I said, it's the same thing, okay? So the last sentence of the abstract, it says, these results indicate that the basic cortisol and testosterone concentrations and HPA axis, which is hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, function are state variables that differently reflect position in the dominance hierarchy rather than trait variables that predict future social status. Okay, so the organism, so the monkey, or I believe in this case it's also extrapolated to humans, their perception of where they are in the social hierarchy, how dominant they are, that's going to decide based on whether they go down the route of producing cortisol or producing testosterone. And allow me to explain. Now, generally, testosterone and cortisol, they're antagonistic to each other, meaning they pretty much do the opposite thing, okay? Testosterone, we know, male hormone, causes drive, causes you to want to persevere, move forward, fortifies our bone, fortifies our muscles, okay? It makes us, even the way we perceive things, we can see things differently, yeah? It gives us this boost of energy. As opposed to cortisol, literally does the opposite. Causes a bit of hypoglycemia, so it increases your blood sugar temporarily, halts muscle protein synthesis, okay? It causes osteopenia or even osteoporosis. We know that medically people, when they're on we can give them exogenous forms of this cortisol. We call them corticosteroids. So we're really careful because it might cause them diabetes. It might cause them lowering of the minerals in the bone density. So testosterone generally for physical attributes, very good. Cortisol, quite the opposite. We don't want it. Okay, especially for long periods of time. One is a stress hormone. They're both, in some cases, stress hormones, but one of them tells you, go forward, commit to this, persevere. The other one is like, we're in danger, let's hold this together, and let's, even to an extent, it causes functions of your immune system and other functions to sort of decrease because it goes, oh, we're in a stressful situation. Now, remember how I said this all starts in the brain. So, generally, from this study, what happens is, if one of these monkeys perceived itself to be higher up in the dominance hierarchy, when it's faced with a stressful situation or a situation where one of these pathways needs to be activated, depending on where it perceives itself within the dominance hierarchy, depends on which pathway is going to be activated. Now, comparing subordinate versus dominant monkeys, we'll start with the dominant monkeys. So, starting again, brain connected to the hypothalamus, going to the pituitary. What that does is, because it thinks it's dominant, it's going to go down the GnRH pathway. And it's going to cause the secretion of testosterone. So the monkey goes, because I'm higher up in this dominance hierarchy, this perceived threat, stress, whatever, acute fluctuation in the environment around me, it's causing me to act in a way such that my bones, my muscles, my endurance, my ability to persevere forward, goes up. Okay, so it wants you to move on forward. As opposed to the subordinate monkey, so this is all within the brain. The subordinate monkey, what happens with this monkey is, it goes down the pathway of the ACTH, yeah, adrenocorticotropic hormone, and that's secreted by the pituitary, goes to the adrenals, and it starts releasing these glucocorticoids. Primarily, the natural one that we release is cortisol. We all know cortisol, the stress hormone. What does cortisol do? Increases your blood sugar, increases your blood pressure a little bit, halts muscle protein synthesis. We know, like I said, in the long term, can cause osteopenia, so the bone density goes down. Essentially, one of them is telling you, run away, the other one is telling you, take this challenge on that's coming. Now, how does this relate to men versus women? In the workforce, who's generally more higher in the dominant hierarchy? I know this is individual to the person and where they believe they are, but generally it's pretty much men. It's pretty much men that are in these positions. And women know that. Women know, we all know. Where's this guy's position? Where's she? Blah, 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 all of these things, okay? We have instinctively understand. It's not necessarily always a conscious thing, but we know this person is acting like this, therefore this is his position, or this person has this position, which therefore translates into my subconscious mind as he's higher above me in the dominance hierarchy. Okay? So that's how it works. I'm sure everyone understands this or feels it to a certain extent. Now, generally, like I said, women perceive themselves to be not as higher up in the dominance hierarchy. Why is this problematic? Because that means every time there's a stressful situation, they're going to go down the ACTH pathway and they're going to cause this acute stress on their body. And it's not good. Blatant, it's not good. You don't want this constant secretion of cortisol. Especially if you're working a 9 to 5, you're going to a job that you don't like. Even if you do like the job, if you like the job, yet you still perceive yourself lower in the dominance hierarchy, you're going to still go down the ACTH pathway, and you're going to have this chronic elevation of cortisol in your blood that's essentially messing up your body. Now, should someone, regardless, even a woman, can have purpose in this case? I can see to that. Should they have purpose and desire and actually believe themselves to be higher up in the dominance hierarchy? And if they are presented in this acutely changing environment where they perceive it to be somewhat stressful, or they need to sort of adapt to that, some of these individuals may still go down the other pathway, the GnRH pathway, that's going to cause the release of testosterone. Now, in men, that's completely fine. Actually, that's good. I want to increase my testosterone. By all means, increase my testosterone. Now, why is this problematic for women? Sure, it's going to give them an edge. It's going to fortify them. It's going to get them a lot more prepared for the environment that's going to come and what they have to face. But now they've put their fertility at jeopardy. We know for a fact that women with higher testosterone, okay, they're not the most feminine women, and they're physiologically not fertile, because what happens is also, so how does our body regulate all these hormones? After, from the brain, the signals released to the gonads for these hormones to be produced, the gonads feed back to the brain, to the hypothalamus, yeah, and they tell it essentially what the concentration of these hormones within our blood are. And if they're very high, then it shuts it down. So, even in a man, we see high testosterone in a man causes testosterone production to be halted. High estrogen in a man also causes testosterone to be halted, because generally estrogens in a man come from aromatization of testosterone into estrogen, but let's not get into that. So essentially, the higher these hormones, they tell the brain, go down. Now, so a man who perceives himself to be higher up in the dominance hierarchy, once faced with a stressful situation, will go down the GnRH pathway, causing the production of testosterone and therefore fortifying himself and allowing him to persevere forward. Yeah? The exact same thing happens to a woman, although much less likely. And even if it does, it causes a problematic scenario when it comes from the perspective of fertility and the physiological disruption that it causes to her hormones. This, I hope, is an argument. I've never heard anyone talk about this because these are sort of studies that not many people know, and not many people talk about them as well. But inshallah, because I think I have some understanding, wallahi, this is not me trying to conjure up some random sort of mechanism. This is found in monkeys. And yes, we have not studied this in humans. Definitely, I can see to that. But I have strong reason to believe, both from observations of certain individuals and from this study. This is just because I need some kind of mechanistic data for me to even elaborate on this phenomena that I believe I have observed. Right? But yeah, regardless, I think for that reason, it's not in the best interest, or it's actually against the best interest of a female, especially one who wants to have kids, who wants to be feminine, to be in a place of competition. It's literally against one. Like we said, you have a lose-lose situation. You're going to go down ACTH pathway, chronic secretion of cortisol, mess your stuff up. Likewise, you're a female who believes herself to be empowered and actually believes she needs to wholeheartedly believe that she's higher up in the dominance hierarchy. That in itself is generally rare in my opinion. But should that be the case? Well, you're still physiologically stuffing yourself up. You're causing increasing secretions of testosterone, okay, which is going to cause your physiology to mess up a little bit as well. So it's sort of a lose-lose situation. As opposed to a man, inshallah, if a man can know what he's doing and why he's doing it. Why am I going to work? Even though I don't like the work that I'm doing, I'm going to for a purpose. This is a desire that I have. This is something that I must do. Yeah? And from that, it causes in your mind. Remember, all of this starts off in the mind. In your mind, to know that this is something where it's a purpose that you have. And then therefore, I believe, this is all conjecture, I believe this is going to make the man more likely to go down the testosterone, the GnRH pathway as opposed to the ACTH pathway. And so therefore, it actually strengthens him every time he works. It strengthens him, it raises his testosterone. It actually makes him more appealing, it makes him stronger, and it allows him to persevere through this job. So, inshallah, I've explained this, that even at a physiological level, it seems like men and women are not designed to be or to work in or to perform the same actions. And I know this is a trivial fact for a lot of people, but I'm trying to bring data into this. I'm trying to bring science into this. Yeah? I'm trying to keep this as objective as possible. And inshallah, I've educated some people. Allah knows my intentions, and alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah.